We are continuing our series. It's called Overcomer, and today is about overcoming anger. So Ephesians 4:26 to 32, that's where you want your Bible to be open. And I'm going to read it for us. Ephesians 4:26 to 32. This is going to be fun. It's about anger. Okay, listen to this, okay? The scripture is very clear. First it says, "In your anger do not sin. Do not let the sun go down while you are still angry. And do not give the devil a foothold. He who has been stealing must steal no longer, but must work, doing something useful with his own hands, that he may have something to share with those in need." Verse 29, it says, "Do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouth, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen. And do not grieve the Holy Spirit of God, with whom you were sealed for the day of redemption. Get rid," verse 31, "get rid of all bitterness, rage, and anger, brawling, and slander, along with every form of malice. Be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other, just as Christ has forgave you." So overcoming anger, by raising your hands, let me know who has never been angry in their lives. If you are that person, and be humble, the song says earlier, right? Teach us to be humble. Be honest too. If you have never been angry in your life, ever, please raise your right hand. Yeah. I'm raising my left hand, not my right hand. Obviously, my task today first is to establish that we have at some point in our lives been angry. And I want to establish that by this introduction. Psychiatrist, and the name who started this is the name Albert Ellis. They have what they call LFT and LDT. Let me explain that. Not PLDT, that's a Philippine long distance telecommunication. But LFT and LDT. LFT stands for low frustration tolerance, people. So you're just a frustration away from exploding. That's the LFT people. And they also say that there's another group of people. By the way, I don't like all these professional giving me designation, but this is what they say. There's another one. LDT is low discomfort tolerance. So those two are friends, because the low frustration tolerance people, they say that discomfort is very frustrating. And then the low discomfort tolerance people, they say that frustration is very uncomfortable. So those two are actually together. So now, according to these psychiatrists, based on their research, and when they say research, meaning they actually have all these patients, that all of us have some form of this LFT and LDT, and so it is critical for us. For example, according to this is another person, Dr. Redford Williams. He's a director of Duke University Behavioral Medicine Research. He says that according to their study, the hostility and anger associated with type A behavior is a major contributor of heart disease. So then it goes from all this anger to becoming a heart issue. And in fact, it says that 5 times more likely, if you are not able to manage your frustrations, that you're 5 times more likely to have a heart attack than those who are managing their frustrations. So then it's very important for us to know what it is. In fact, Jesus also says this. He says, "But I tell you that anyone who is angry with a brother or a sister will be subject to judgment." So anger is not, there is some consequence or consequences to anger. But my task today is really to explain, so how do I manage, how do I make sure that this anger is not the major factor in my life? Because it's bad for me, it's bad for my relationship, it's bad for my family. And so, first of all, it's very important from our text today that we learn this. Number one, that we need to anticipate, first of all, sinless anger. It is possible, it says in our text, in your anger, do not sin. So, first of all, we need to realize and recognize that it is possible to be angry and not sin. And so, how is that possible? I thought angry is not very good, but in our text, it says it's possible. And so, how do we do that? We look at the example of Jesus Christ. Okay, so we study this in our Bible studies on Tuesday about in John chapter 2. Jesus, when he went into the temple court. The temple court is like really the courtyard, and then there's a temple inside. He sees all these people selling pigeons, doves, animals, sheep. And so when Jesus says this in the temple, he made a whip, and also he put all the tables down. And he said to the people, "You are turning my Father's house into a den of robbers, den of thieves." So then the question is, Jesus, in that instance, there is some, part of you rage, anger in that when you do that, right? And so in the scholars suggest this, that the reason why it was not sinless anger, and so this is what they say, okay? So the reason why it's not sinless anger is because when anger is not about you, when anger, for example, in Jesus' case, because here's what happened, okay? The reason why Jesus did that, give you a context, is when you go into the temple, you want to go inside and bring an animal that is acceptable to the priest. So when a priest says, okay, that animal is good, you can sacrifice that. But here's the thing, if you go and bring your own animal from your house, you go into the temple and the priest says, that's not acceptable, where do you get acceptable animals to buy? Outside, which is in the temple courts. The problem was this. The priests were getting some money from the merchants outside. And so they also allowed, where do you buy an animal that is 100% acceptable to the priest? Outside. It's like, and the problem is, monopoly gives you a high price. Just like going into a sporting event, like a hockey game, at Rogers Arena, or even watching baseball, Canadian baseball, when you go and buy a hot dog and a drink, you paid more for the drink and a hot dog than a baseball ticket. It's only like $12 or something like that to watch baseball. So the problem with the same idea, when you find that there's only one place to have an approved sacrifice, you buy it there, but the priests get a lot of commission from that. And so the anger of Jesus was directed not to him, but to the injustices that were done to God and to God's people. Let me illustrate that. Jesus, when he was beaten, he was spit at, he was nailed on the cross. We don't read anything that says Jesus was angry. So Jesus was not angry when it was done unto him, but it was done to God and to God's people. So anger not directed to yourself. When you are angry at some injustices, let me give you an example, okay? I was watching a documentary of North American people going into Asia, like the Philippines, and they turn, 5-year-old girls into sex slaves. If that doesn't make you angry, then something is wrong with your heart. And it did make me angry. I said, I'm going to do something. And so I found an organization. It's called International Justice Mission. An International Justice Mission, if you sign up to their email address, you can tell that slavery, we thought, has been abolished. It's not. This International Justice Mission is an organization of lawyers, volunteers, who go into places like Philippines, India, Dominican Republic, anywhere in Africa, and now even in North America, because people or families become enslaved by rich people because they owe some money that they cannot repay, so then you have to work. And so, if those things does not create anger in the injustice of this world, then that's the kind of anger that Jesus has. It says in verse 16, "Get this out of here, how dare you turn my Father's house into a market." So, sinless anger is very important. And in fact, if you can do this, you are doing sinless anger. Listen to this, and I'll tell you who said this after. It says, "A man who is angry on the right grounds," number one, right grounds, "against the right persons, in the right manner, at the right moment, for the right length of time, deserves great praise." So it has to take those 5 right. Right grounds, right person, right manner, right moment, and the right length of time deserves great praise. That is actually a quote by Aristotle. And so it is very, very important for us to realize that anger, we should anticipate or expect anger in us when there is injustice. We should expect that. Let me say that the word expect in Tagalog. Expectin natin. That's how you say it in Tagalog, right? We should expect anger when there is injustice. And so now we go to the anger that is sin. Okay, so the second part is we need to avoid the anger that is sin. Look at this. It says, "Get rid of all bitterness, rage, and anger, and brawling, and slander, along with every form of malice." Okay, so my professor in counseling is actually a psychologist. He's actually a famous psychologist among the counselors. In fact, the counselors in the Lower Mainland, I'm talking about Lower Mainland, the counselors in the marriage counselors in Lower Mainland, they actually go to him for counseling, how to counsel their counselors or counseling. So that's how famous he is. Okay, so he has what he calls an anger tree. He says that anger starts with when you get hurt by an event, and that hurt, you are worried that oh no, what's people gonna think about me? All that stuff, and then it turns into anger and bitterness. But I'm not going his angry tree. I'm going with the Bible's sinful anger. By the way, he's also a pastor. He's not like but he is going in a different route. I'm just saying that I'm going with the scriptures route. And it says that sinful anger starts with this. So I've created this ladder. I call it anger staircase, because I couldn't find anything in Google, so I have to make this staircase myself. I was gonna email Jay to help me, but but so I created this according to this verse. Anger is a staircase. Bitterness. It starts with bitterness. Now, what is bitterness? When you feel that someone has said something to you, or someone has wronged you, and when you don't approach that someone, you keep it within your heart. And Pastor Ben preached on this last Sunday. Then it starts boiling inside. See, the problem with bitterness, and you know this illustration, right? The problem with bitterness is like a frog. A frog that you put in a warm or cold water and you start boiling it, that frog wouldn't know that it's already boiling because it's there. But if you put a frog on a boiling water, it will jump out. It's the same thing with bitterness. You see, you don't notice that. It's just kind of warming up. And if you don't take care of it, of course, if you want to get rid of that, is to talk to somebody directly who you think have wronged you. But if you don't, then it starts boiling in there, and that's what bitterness is. Then it becomes rage. You know what? Rage is also still inside. It never goes out yet. It's still something inside. You know, the temperature of the water is just heating up 400 degrees. That's what it is. It's like really boiling, but it's still not out. It's still inside. A good illustration of that is for those of you who watch Forrest Gump. Forrest Gump, I think he went into he had someone named Jane, and she went back into her old house, and she remembered all the abuses that she received, and she started throwing rocks to this house until there is no more rocks. She goes faster and faster, and then there's no more rocks, and then Forrest Gump says, you know, that's what rage is. You run out of rocks. You'll never have enough rocks. Something like that, you know. I just remember that, and that's what rage is. Something inside. So it never got out yet. Where it gets out is in the anger part. So you have bitterness boiling in you. You don't deal with that, and then it becomes a rage. And then it becomes anger inside of you. And so when you are angry, that is rage that is showing outside. And so that is when our face turns red, all your veins at the back are coming out, you know, what is that vein coming out of you? Why is your face red? Well, that's because you're already showing the bitterness, the rage, showing it in anger. And so that's the progression that the text, the Bible tells us. And then after the anger, there is brawling. Brawling, it means you start to loudly quarrel with people. You're loud quarreling. And so this is when we begin to raise our voices and begin to yell. So you see the progression there? Brawling. And then the next one after brawling is the slander. Slander is when you start to speak evil things, blasphemy, all the things that the person has inside is starting to coming up. Here's the thing, when you start with bitterness, the person that you think has done something against you, whatever that person does is always misinterpreted the wrong way. Even if that person means something better or positive, it will always be interpreted the wrong way by you because you have been hurt. And so that's the thing, bitterness, rage, anger, brawling, and then slander, that's when you start saying evil things. And then malice. Malice is literally means wickedness. So that's when anger turns physical. So you see the progression. And so the progression begins with bitterness and it ends with malice. And so the Bible tells us that that's not how we should end our study today. Because verse 32, it tells this, that we should substitute all these into this. Okay, it says, you notice how many progressions? 6 of them, right? Bitterness, rage, anger, brawling, slander, and malice. That's 6, right? Well, it says 2 for 1. Replace those 2 for 1. Only 3 is what you need to replace those. It says, be kind and compassionate to one another, forgiving each other just as in Christ God forgave you. So in other words, what do we need to substitute all these 6? We just need to replace it with simple things like kindness, compassion, and forgiveness. Kindness is when you do, for example, if you do acts of kindness, you pay for somebody behind you at the drive-thru, that's an act of kindness. So you're saying, Pastor, are you asking me to serve my husband coffee when I have this something inside of me? So, but that's what acts of kindness is. Let me just say this, okay? That in relationship, in marriage, we forget that, for example, if you like to give something to your husband, to your wife, and your husband or your wife, for example, likes flower. Let's give you an example. And that's how you got your wife, because you always give flowers. And then you got married. What happened to the flowers? So flowers are very expensive now. Before it was cheap. What happened to the flowers now? And so do you know that if you keep doing the same thing now, those acts of kindness actually replaces the bitterness, the rage, the anger, all that stuff with your spouse. It's actually been proven. I know somebody here actually advertised or mentioned the book 5 Languages of Love, right? Well, I went to North Carolina to attend my school's residency, and one of our guest speaker is actually the writer of 5 Languages of Love. And so he explains all this. What's his name again? That's Smalley? Gary Chapman. Gary Chapman. Yeah, he's in his 70s, but his book has been translated in different languages. And he says that all these things, the acts of kindness, if your spouse likes to receive gifts, because they have different languages of love, if that's their language, that will replace all the bitterness later on. You just need to do that every day. Let me give you one tip. If your spouse likes flowers, Costco. It's cheaper. I'm not advertising Costco, but it's cheaper. So the Bible reminds us to replace that, and ultimately what you will receive from this person is compassion and forgiveness. But if you are that person, the Bible is saying, no, don't wait for all those language of love to be done to you. Make sure you replace that with kindness, compassion, and forgiveness, because life is too short. You could be driving one day and that's it. And so the Bible reminds us to replace all these things. I don't know if you've read about Leonardo da Vinci. Is that how you say that? Leonardo da Vinci. He was the guy who drew the Last Supper, the painting. And it says on there, while he was painting that, he actually had an argument with another painter. And so while he was painting that, when he got to the face of Judas, he painted the face of this other painter where he had bitterness. He was angry. So his friends, when they saw the painting, they already know, wait a minute, that's not the face of Judas. That's the face of another painter. And so he continued painting until in the story it says that until he wanted to paint the face of Christ. And he couldn't. It said in the story that he tried so hard to paint the face of Christ, and then he realized the reason why he couldn't is because he had this bitterness against the other painter. So then he changed the face of Judas from his other painter to something else. And then it says he was able to paint the face of Christ. What did the Bible says? Stop coming to me until you forgive somebody else. Stop your offering. Leave it and then go and forgive somebody. And so, very important for us. This is something that we never use a lot, but it's something that we need to do as followers of Jesus Christ. So, three practical things that we need to take home today about anger. Number one, don't nurse your anger. And you might ask me, Pastor, I'm a nurse. Is that okay to nurse anger? No, that's still not okay. Don't doctor your anger. Don't nurse it. It says in the Bible, do not make friends. This is how you nurse your anger, okay? Do not make friends with a hot-tempered person. Do not associate with one easily angered, or you may learn their ways and get yourself ensnared or trapped. You can be just like your friends. So don't be friends. So that's how you nurse your anger. You're around people who are angry. And let me just say this, okay? If a bird is nesting the eggs, because this is what you do when you nurse an anger, right? What will happen to the egg? It hatches and it flies away. If you also and I do the same thing, we nurse it, we keep it warm, it will fly away. It makes into rage, outburst, all the other things that the Bible reminds us. And so, don't nurse your anger, for you are not a nurse. And even though you are a nurse, also don't nurse your anger. Because someone says staying angry is a choice. It is a choice that we need to make. Here's the second one. Don't rehearse your anger. I love what it says in 1 Corinthians 13:5. It says love, and there's so many things in between there, as you know. It is not easily angered, and it keeps no record of wrongs. Remember what you did to me last summer? Remember what you did to me 10 years ago? That's why you're getting that. I told you not to do that, you do that. Tingnan mo, look you. I told you that, this is like 10 years ago, 20 years ago maybe. But love is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Sometimes you become historical beside becoming hysterical, so that's no good. Henry Brand, somebody said this, when someone says someone makes me angry, it's false. Because he says this, that anger is actually, no one can make you angry. Anger is already inside of you. Somebody just bringing it out of you. And so you can't blame somebody else and say, this person made me angry. The reason why I'm shouting is because no one will hear me. The reason why I'm letting this out, because it's bad for me, for my heart. And so you always blame somebody else. But it says there that there is no one who can make you angry. It's already in you. Someone is just getting it out of you by what they're doing or saying. That's because we haven't dealt with bitterness, all that stuff, rage. So if we deal with that, then it's not in us. Here's a third to-go box today. Reverse your anger. On the contrary, I like that. It says, on the contrary, if your enemy is hungry, feed him. If he is thirsty, give him something to drink. In doing this, you will heap burning coals on his head. The last phrase there is actually an Egyptian customs. The Egyptian is when you want to show somebody that you are truly sorry for your sin, they put a hot coal on their head, on the plate first, not directly on the head, on the plate, and put the plate on your head. Ouch, that's still hot. But it shows people, you know, that's their custom to say that I am truly sorry. And so, you know, we need to reverse our anger. On the contrary, if someone is angry, give them something. And so, yeah, if you go to work and say, Pastor, my pastor preached today that although I don't like you as my coworker, I'm supposed to serve you coffee, so here's coffee. And just to let you know, I put sleeping pills in there. Just to get even. That is something that we do, right? Or we don't. But the Bible reminds us today, please reverse your anger. If you have something against someone else, maybe it's your spouse, maybe it's a friend, maybe instead of saying, you know, you don't get this because you did this, then you should reverse it. You know what? You are getting this even if you did this to me. Even though you are mean, you are getting this from me. Not because you deserve it, but because I'm trying to heal myself from anything else. And so that is the reversing our anger. I don't know if you've heard of this story, very important story that I read about anger. One time in baseball history, because I love baseball, there was a game between Boston Red Sox and the Orioles. And you know how sometimes they, when the pitcher pitch and then hit the batter and they start fighting? Well, this happened, except what happened was, okay, so they were fighting, and everybody in the teams, the two teams, start to go into the field and start fighting. The problem was, it moved into the stand, into the seats, and so all the fans were also fighting. And then someone put a fire, so it burned the whole building, and not only that whole stadium, it burned over 100 structures beside the stadium. And it all started with anger. And so if anger can destroy a stadium, or even the whole city, it can destroy us. It can destroy me. And so, very important to reverse our anger, even at this moment,